Hey Sinjin, what's up?
Not much. We're just down at the beach. Beautiful day. Actually, we're at Annenberg Beach House, and that's where I run some of my camps and my girls club and my boys club, and they're going to get started up pretty soon, I think.
That's what's going on right now out there?
And this is crazy. This is late September, and the weather is so good. It's perfect.
It is gorgeous out today. Talk a little bit more of those camps. What camps? How many locations? What do you got?
So Randy and I started beach volleyball camps 2001, 22 years ago, and I'm still doing it today. We have 9 locations from San Diego as far as Santa Barbara and out in the valley in Thousand Oaks. So there's a lot of action. Most of them are running during the summer, and some of them will run year-round. Encinitas is year-round, up here in Santa Monica year-round, Thousand Oaks year-round, and down here we run the club programs too for the kids, mostly for the kids who are more serious, particularly the girls, about playing and want to get to the college level. But we have different programs and even an adult program as well.
Nice. And you know what, speaking of Randy, recently the AVP just posted about you and Randy's 90th AVP title win in Fort Myers back in 1993. And that is still the most for any duo to this day. How does that make you feel?
Only 90? Was it only 90?
That was your 90th one at that time.
They keep changing the numbers, but no, it's pretty awesome. You know, it's funny, Ron Von Hagen had the most wins as an individual at 62, and I don't think anybody, including me, thought that record would be broken. And he did it when there were anywhere from 6 to 8 tournaments in a season, and then of course we came along and the sport became a professional sport. We started the AVP in 1983, and then we increased the number of events, so we had, you know, at times 3 times more events to play in. So we eclipsed, Randy and I as a team, and individually we each had more, but we eclipsed that number 62 and then kept going. But again, to be fair to the guys before us, they didn't have nearly as many events to play.
Well, speaking about the guys before you, what about the guys now? I keep people talking about the events. There's not that many.
Yeah, unfortunately today, the AVP is a little bit in flux. They're putting on events. Bally's owns the tour, and there's stuff happening that I can't confirm yet, but there may be some changes. But yeah, they only have about, I don't know, anywhere from 6 to 8 high-level events that the guys can play in. There's other events, lower-level events with less prize money they can play in and less exposure. But it's kind of sad to see where we were at one point with over 20 events, network television coverage, live coverage. To see where we were and to see what's going on today is kind of disappointing, particularly since, you know, my boys all love the game, and my oldest Hagen is out there and playing in everything he possibly can, and it's really hard to make a living. He's got other things going on. He has a indoor club program in Pacific Palisades, and Stanton is out coaching at CSUN and for me, and you know, doing all kinds of different things.
He's out there, right now.
He's out right now waiting for
practice to start.
His high school boys to show up, so
nice.
He can run with them, which is awesome. I love the fact that there's more and more boys coming down, particularly after school or in the afternoons, to play beach volleyball. It's awesome. Well, I mean, it makes all the sense in the world, particularly even if you're an indoor player, because all the skills are the same, and it actually, you work harder on the beach to move and to play the ball, and you develop all your skills on the beach. So even if you're coming to the beach and you're going to go back to indoors, the beach is really good for your indoor game.
And what's the club called for that Hagen runs?
Hagen's club is Pac 6 in the Palisades. They train at Pali High, and actually Stanton is one of the coaches for him as well.
Nice.
So Stanton's busy. He's got a
And what
lot.
about Sinjin, the youngest?
Youngest Sinj is coaching at Long Beach State. He's one of the assistants down there for the women's beach team, and he's liking it. I didn't think he would be coaching. He has a marketing degree from San Luis Obispo, Cal Poly, and he kind of fell into this to stay busy, and I think he's really enjoying it. So we'll just have to see what happens.
It feels good being involved in all of your kids' activities, everything they've been doing since they were little.
Oh, you know what's awesome? Okay, when the people that have boys, and particularly 2 or more boys, you know how things can be. And but the other day I was training. Stanton wants me to train him all the time, serve at him, hit at him, do different things with him or with him and a partner. And little Sinjin was in town from Newport, and I'd go away to take a call or something, and I'd go back and I'd listen to them and what they were saying, and they were comparing notes for the colleges. Stanton coaching at CSUN, Sinj coaching down at Long Beach, and they were comparing notes. It was the best feeling ever to see them communicating and talking about what they're doing down there and what he's doing up there, and kind of giving each other tips on what works and what doesn't work. It was completely awesome and kind of unexpected to be.
Yeah.
I just did not expect it.
Was there any one of them that wanted to follow exactly in your footsteps? Did you push
or
anything, or just let them be?
I think when they were younger, they kind of all, I think at one point, fancied themselves as wanting to play at a high level. Probably more so than I did when I was a kid. I just loved playing, and I played. I didn't think I was going to win NCAA championships at UCLA or win over 100 events down on the beach. I had no idea, no serious aspirations really, and even playing in the Olympic Games, no idea. Well, it wasn't an Olympic sport when I was playing, when I was younger, or in college, or out of college. It wasn't until 1996, and I was 39 when I played in the Olympics in 1996. And the first opportunity I had to play in the Olympics was with the indoor team. I left UCLA in 1979, joined the national team. We were training for a short period of time to go and try and qualify for 1980. And there was a boycott, and we didn't end up going. But in my basically Olympic aspirations were over at that time, and then later on, while I was working with the FIVB and building the world tour, the president at the time, Ruben Acosta, made a big push with the IOC to make it Olympic sport, and he brought me along to help him do that, in communicating with the IOC and kind of showcasing what the sport was and who the athletes were, and it was awesome to be a part of that whole process. And it's another discussion for another day, but the details that went into basically making it an Olympic sport, nobody has any idea what it took or what transpired. It's really an incredible story.
Well, we will definitely sit down and talk about that next time for sure.
Yeah.
I do want to bring it back to this 90th AVP title that you won. Speaking of all those championships at UCLA and over 100 wins, I was watching the game last night from 1993 against you and Stoklos versus Karai and Stefis.
Was that the final?
Yeah, the double final. Yeah. And
what, did we lost the first game?
You lost 15-1.
Wow.
Yeah. You lost, and I want to ask, how did you guys turn that around? Was there a point that you realized we're going to win this?
You're talking about 1993.
Fort Myers. Yeah.
Okay, let me think. That's 30 years ago. You think I remember the whole game?
Yeah,
I mean, there's a few games throughout my career where I remember certain plays, but I'm not one of those guys that can remember every game, every tournament, every win, every loss. I'm not one of those guys. But I can tell you this much: if we lost 15-1, it was an eye opener for Randy and me, for sure. But we had played so many times, and we'd been behind, plenty of times, and until the game was over, it wasn't over. So we knew that, okay, we lost that game, and we're going to come back and we're going to play, and they're not going to play as well as they did. They probably played, you know, really, really well, no mistakes, and we probably didn't play our best with plenty of mistakes, and all we had to do is try and play our game and come back and you know, start from scratch, and we did, and nice to come home with a victory.
The commentators kept saying in the game when I was watching last night that you guys were the underdogs going into it. The crowd was cheering you on, they wanted you to win, and I was just curious, how did that affect your playing? Did it ever put pressure on you at any time, any point in your career?
Okay, now I'm going back and I'm thinking a little bit more about that time in my career and what was going on, and I think Randy and I had been struggling that season, maybe the season before, and I had some issues with my knee, and I was seriously thinking about retiring, and going into that game, I just needed, you know, to be able to jump, and I probably was taking anti-inflammatories because my knee was bad and so on, and I'll get to that story, you know, but you know, every game is different. Even if you lose to somebody, or even if you win against somebody, the next game's going to be different. You can't think that you play a certain way against a team and you're going to repeat it exactly the same way the next time. They're going to play different. You're going to play different. Anything can happen. So I knew anything could happen. But going into this, we had struggled, and I'll take, you know, a lot of responsibility for that because I knew my knee was messed up. So shortly after that, I basically retired, and this is before the Olympics when I actually played in the Olympics. But I retired because my knee was so messed up. I went in, had, you know, X-ray, MRI, and they thought maybe there's something there. I said, I need surgery. I'm done. You know, I don't have to worry about playing, and so they cut me open, and I had a spinal block so I could watch the surgery because I wanted to see what was going on. Cuts it open, and he goes, "Oh, look, your patella tendon above the knee, part of it has pulled off your patella, and we're going to cut away the bad tissue, and we're going to drill a hole in your kneecap." And I watched him with a regular drill, the same kind I got at home, and he drilled a hole in the kneecap, and they sutured the tendon back to the kneecap and fixed it. And I thought to myself, okay, I've been hurting for a handful of years now, and you know, it was really bothering me, and they fixed the problem. They found the problem and they fixed it. So why can't I continue to play? I felt all right. I was at that time, what, 37 or something, and I said, I'm going to come back and I'm going to play and see how it feels after it heals. And I screwed it up during that process, but you know, suffice to say, I came back. I felt pretty good. Randy had already moved on and was playing with, you know, some other people, and I was out looking, you know, for different partners, and God, there's so many stories I could tell you. It just take too long. You know, finding that next partner for the Olympic Games was an interesting thing. But so I came back and felt pretty good, and was training and decided I wanted to play in the Olympic Games in 1996. So I started the qualification process in 1995 and went on to be the highest ranked American team in the Olympic qualification. We were in the top 4 in the world, and at that time, the first Olympics, the host country would get one berth, and then the host country being the USA, where the Olympics were, we would get 2 other teams that would qualify separately. So we got the automatic berth because we were the highest ranked international team. There's only one other team, Brasinio and Williams, who went up in, I think, in the top 12. So they enabled USA to get those extra 2 teams, because at that time, if you had one team in the top 8 and another in the top 20, something like that, you could have two spots in the Olympic Games. Well, we got the 2 spots because of me playing and the other team playing. But those 2 extra spots outside of the automatic berth, you know, for the host country, went to an AVP qualifier. And that's how Karchen Steffes and Whitmarsh and Dodd ended up qualifying through that process. And Randy sprained his ankle, and he ended up not going. I can't imagine how tough that was for Randy. I mean, but you know, when Randy and I split up before the Olympics, you know, he thought I was messed up, and I wasn't performing great. But after I had the surgery, I felt pretty good.
Yeah.
But he was already, you know, on his way with other people, and ended up, I think he went through the Olympic qualifying event with the AVP with Adam Johnson, and they were a good team, very good team. Not as good as me and Randy, but they were a good team. But he sprained his ankle, I think, going into the semis or something. He landed on a ball. It's got to be so tough.
Yeah. And you know, you're giving me so many segues to all these other questions I have. I did want to ask though, with you and Randy on the court, because just, you know, watching all these games growing up on my TV back home in Kansas, watching you guys, when you guys were down like this double final 15-1 for the first game, did you as partner, I mean, just for some of these kids to start understanding kind of how, you know, things work, did you guys bicker? Was it kind of more kept professional? Like, was it like, you know, I mean, to go back and, like you said, turn around and you just said it's the next game.
You're asking what was our relationship like, you know?
Sure, yeah.
You know, we were friends, and we were both really good players, and we both knew the game really well, and I felt like, I mean, nobody could touch Randy when he was playing well. I mean, he was a tremendous blocker and a really good offensive player. And when he felt good, nobody could touch him. So I figured it was my job, one, to play my game and do the best I could, but also make him feel good about his game, whatever that meant, whatever it did. You know, sometimes, you know, I'd give him a set, and it might not have been perfect, and he made a mistake, and I would take blame for the set, of course, and you know, because the reality is every time the ball goes up in the air, it's your responsibility to put it away. But I realized that we were going to do better as a team if Randy felt good about what he was doing. He was the best, and when he felt good, nobody could touch him. So my job was to make him feel good about his game and take care of my game.
I like it. And you know, so you know, you talk about him spraining his ankle. You talk about your shoulder. You've got knee surgeries, shoulder surgeries as well.
Wrist surgeries.
Yeah. So to kind of help these kids out here these days, what advice can you give them to deal with their injury mentally?
You know, yeah, I've had plenty of injuries throughout my career. I can tell you this much though, I never missed a tournament because of an injury. And I had 6 knee surgeries throughout my career on the same knee. Damn. And I had a severed tendon. That's another story for later on. Thank you, Tim Hovland. Came back that next weekend, even though it was severed, and the doctor said, don't play, you know, and they sutured it up. You know, give it 6 weeks to heal. I came back the very next week and taped it all up. And,
of course you did.
and we ended up beating Hovland and Dodd that next weekend. And then the following weekend, we ended up winning the tournament. So that was with a severed tendon right there, actually. And so that was pretty awesome. I had broken a toe before going to Mexico for one of the international events, like 3 days before leaving, and it was a spiral fracture. And I asked the doc, I said, look, I got an important event. I couldn't even touch my toe without excruciating pain. Oh. I go, is there any way I can play? And he goes, well, you could if you numbed it. You know, the nerves run in the toes, in your hands, up along the side. He goes, I'm going to give you some numbing agent and a bunch of syringes. Mm-hmm. And you're gonna take it out of and you're gonna inject before every game. It'll last about an hour.
Great.
And so I did that and ended up, we did pretty well in that tournament. I was playing with Rob Heicher, and I think we ended up beating Karch in that event and getting 5th place. I always felt like I could do better, but you know. But my toe normally would have taken probably 8 weeks to heal, and because I was doing what I was doing, it took about a year. And but it works now.
You're good? You're
it's
good?
pretty good now.
It was fine.
Yeah, I don't feel any difference in it. But the idea, I would inject it for every game. Towards the end of the game, I would start to feel the pain a little bit, and then usually they didn't last much more than an hour, if that long. And I would go and put my foot into an ice bucket afterwards to calm everything down. And then get ready for the next game, inject it, short warm up, and play.
Oh my goodness.
That was a fun one.
That sounds like it. Jesus.
Yeah. Oh, and I had surgery. It's such a long story, but I had surgery on my wrist because I had a problem with my elbow. And if you look back at pictures from old tournaments, you'll see I have something wrapped around my elbow, because every time the ball hit my arms when I was passing or digging, it would extend, and it felt like somebody was shooting a nail into the back of my elbow. And so I ended up taking anti-inflammatories for that too, and getting through. And I wouldn't, during the week, my training was just for my legs. I didn't really play much. And then during tournaments, I would go through a whole tournament with hitting very few balls, but shooting a lot of balls because of my elbow. And then because my elbow was hurt, my shoulders started to bother me. So this went on, and I found a doctor who looked at it, and long story short, he said the problem is with your wrist, not your elbow or shoulder, but it's ending up affecting your wrist and shoulder. And he goes, I'll fix it. He injected something to numb it, had somebody hold my arm, he took my wrist, and he went bang. And he goes, okay, now look at the movement in your wrist now compared to before. And I went, oh my God, I've got full mobility now. He goes, yeah, you did something when you were younger, and there's a whole bunch of bones in your capsule here, and something was off, and your body healed, and it changed everything, and that's why you had the problem. He goes, your elbow problem and shoulder problem will be gone within the month. And it went away. But as part of the process of loosening it up, he goes, I'm going to inject proliferant into your wrist, into the capsule, so that it creates scar tissue to kind of hold it in place. So I'm watching him inject this fluid into the capsule, and it breaks through the capsule, and it leaks out over the top of my hand. And the objective of this stuff was to create scar tissue, but not in this area. Right. I played a whole season, and again, you look back at pictures, or you'll see my wrist is swollen like this, and I have it taped up, but I played a whole season like that. And then after that season, I went in and had surgery. They cut it open, and they scraped out all the stuff in there that they'd injected that locked it down. And it just happens to be at the same time when I was getting married, and they sewed it back up, cleaned it up. It was all good. I shook hands with my uncle. I felt it pop. So the sutures popped, and I taped it back up and wrapped it. And we ended that 2 days later. We went on our honeymoon in Jamaica.
Okay.
And went swimming, did everything, of course. And the incision started to open up, and the skin buckled under, and that's a sign of an infection. I didn't know it, but I kind of felt like maybe. I was scuba diving, I was windsurfing, I was swimming, doing it. And I get back and I call the doctor, and I go, hey, I explained to him what it looked like, and he goes, get in your car right now, do not delay. You drive up to Santa Barbara where his office was, and unless you want to lose your hand.
Unless you want to lose your hand.
So I went up there, he opened it up, he cut away all the bad skin that was buckling under, cleaned out everything, put me on antibiotics, closed it all up,
Jesus.
and it's okay.
Yeah, fine.
Now it's okay. But that was interesting.
I mean, I'll say, Jesus.
Yeah. Well, you got to remember too, I played until I was 44, till 2001.
Yeah.
So, and even at that time, I felt pretty good. I felt, good enough to compete, but it was harder to get partners. When you're in your 40s, you're not getting, the top level guys. They don't think you can play. But I would go out and I would beat some of those top level guys with whoever I was playing with at the time. So,
So you just, injury or not, you're just, I'm playing.
Yeah, I never missed a tournament. Never missed a tournament because of an injury.
Yeah.
Never.
And then speaking of getting partners and stuff like that, what advice can you give to these kids out here, and anybody, actually, adults even, these guys playing now, about getting a beach partner? How do you go about doing that?
Well, it's interesting because Hagen has been going through it, and Hagen's a talented player, and he thinks, and I think the same thing. I think he should be playing with one of the top guys, right? But you have to prove yourself. You have to play with whoever you can play with, and do better. And as you do better players are going to be looking at you and wanting to play with you.
Right.
And that's the way you climb that ladder. And Hagen's playing with a very talented player right now in Logan Weber, and they have an opportunity to be, really, really good. They took third place in Manhattan Beach Open, which is tremendous. They thought they should have done better, and I know they could have done better. But it's not easy. There are a lot of talented players out there, and they're all thinking the same thing. They want to go out and win. But it's not always the easiest thing to find the right partner. You've got to play with different people. Try to play with, obviously, as good a partner as you can, but you've got to continue to play as much as you can, compete as much as you can, and do the best you can. And then the partner situation will come. I was lucky. I played with a pretty good guy when I first started in 1977. My third tournament, I won an Open, which is crazy. It just doesn't happen. Didn't win another tournament with that guy. That was Mike Norman. What a physical specimen he was. He could jump higher than anybody on the beach. But for whatever reason, you could be a great team on paper, but you might not do well as a team, playing against different people. So you've got to try things out. Just because you think, we'll match up great and we'll play great together, sometimes it doesn't work that way. You could play with somebody who you may not think you could win with, and all of a sudden you guys click and you do really, really well. Yeah. So, again, I got lucky. I won my first tournament, and I played after that. When we weren't doing well, I moved on to somebody else, and then somebody else, and somebody else again. And then in 1979, Karch came to UCLA as a freshman. I was a senior. That's the year we went undefeated in the NCAA championships. And we went right to the beach, and we were really, really good. And Karch was still a young kid. He was, 19 years old, but it didn't matter. He was, a tremendously talented player, and we clicked together. It was a different game back then. There was blocking really hadn't started yet, but while we were playing together, we started to do some blocking and take advantage of it. And I guess that's because we didn't have the patience of just siding out for hours and hours and hours. I don't know. You want to score points and you want to win. You don't want to just go out and side out for a long time. But that was then, and now the games are much quicker. The scoring system's quicker. We would play matches that lasted 2 hours, and we'd play several of them during the day. We'd have a tournament with over 120 teams in Manhattan Beach over a 2-day period of time. 2 days, 120 teams. So you were playing, if you're in the losers, you were playing back to back to back to back to back to back, all day long. Yeah. If you're in the winners, you got a few breaks, but you still were playing a lot of games over a long period of time. So, things are different today.
Yeah, and again, you're so great at giving me these segues, you don't even know it. I did want to ask about that. So, yes, things are different today. So you would say then that the beach athlete today is definitely different than in your playing days?
No, the athletes are the same. Okay. They there's very, very gifted athletes today. There's more of them playing, than when we were playing. I mean, there were some great teams when we played, no doubt about it. I think there's more great teams today, and there's more competition today. So yeah, is it tougher today? Yeah, probably. Now, you know, we shortened the court, so the court isn't as big. So we basically took away the ability for teams to score a majority of points on jump serves, because the court was so big that they could hit as hard as they want, and you know, you could score points easier. You had to cover more courts, and with the smaller court also came more defense. So and with bigger blockers comes more defense too, because the blockers are taking away more area. We had big players when I was playing, but there's more of them today, and there's a lot of really good. I mean, a guy like Phil Dalhouser, you know, a guy that tall, and people would think, oh, serve the big guy, or let's take advantage of him because he can't have all the skills. Phil had all the skills. He could pass, set, hit, jump serve as good as anybody. You know what? The whole jump serve thing. Yeah. and Phil reminded me of this. Phil had one of the best jump serves ever, but he didn't use it all the time. I think he felt like he would use it when he really needed it, right? When they really needed a point, he'd go back and he'd jump serve and he'd serve an ace or he'd get him in trouble. Randy was the same way. Randy was the best jump server during his time, for sure. He never used it. And I you know, when he used it, he got the teams in trouble. But he rarely ever used it unless we were in trouble. And I'm going, why doesn't he start a game with the jump serve? And let's get the other team down and go right through them.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
It always bothered me.
Do you think he did it just to save himself some energy? I mean,
oh, for sure, it was more energy, and he was blocking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So he would jump and he'd run up and block, and then, you know, to do it time and time again, over and over and over. Yeah,
it's a lot.
But I'll tell you what, he could shorten the games too if he did it much more, because he was so good at it.
I do want to ask you just some more stuff here for the kids, just to help them out with these days. A lot of pressure, a lot of stuff going on. You know, they really want to do well, just like any kid, my day, your day. How can they handle a loss?
Handle a lot of what?
A loss.
Oh, a loss.
Yeah, a loss.
Learn from it. The way you deal with losses is learn from it. I can remember going through a tournament, playing well, and end up, you know, losing in a final, or, you know, or not so often, but even in a semifinal. but in the way I felt. And if I didn't win the tournament, I would come back out on Monday, finish on Sunday, come back out on Monday, and train really hard and work on the things, you know, right after the tournament was over. I'd take a moment and I'd think about what I did well, what I didn't do well, and you know, put it in the back of my head, and then come back out and deal with the public, because the public, they think we play great, even though we may think, God, that was a terrible tournament, you know. Nobody really understands or realizes that, you know, the way we feel and what we know and what we understand. They're looking as, these are the top players in the world, and wow, how awesome, they're so good. And so you've got to realize as an athlete that you got to put things into perspective very quickly if you lose, very quickly, and then come back out and put on a happy face, you know, for the public. It's very important for the sport and the way people look at you. I didn't realize that right away, and we didn't, you know, we weren't on television when we first started, all this stuff, but once the cameras were out and more people were watching us, I figured it out, and I knew I'd have to put things into perspective very quickly. Know that week I knew what I was going to work on, what didn't go right that week, and I was going to work harder too. There are times when I lost earlier on a Sunday, and I would take off and just run up the beach and go until I couldn't go anymore. It just, you know, that was the way I dealt with my frustration, and, you know, internally, is to get it out.
Yeah.
Plus, I would have been playing more anyway, so I'm going to go and I'm going to do, you know, whatever it was to, you know, a lot of the guys who really good players, they would get to a final and they'd be tired because they'd never been there before. And I would always try to, if I didn't make it to the final and if I didn't win, I would train as if I was playing in the final or harder if I didn't make it to the final.
That's smart.
And then during the week, early in the week, if I win the tournament, Monday I'd take off, you know, to maybe get the blood flowing, and Tuesday train, you know, relatively hard, and Wednesday train really hard, Thursday start to back off, Friday travel, and then play Saturday, Sunday. So there was a method to the madness, but the bottom line for that whole discussion was put things into perspective very quickly so you can put on a happy face for the public, because they think you're great no matter what you did.
Right. Like all the kids and their parents.
Yeah.
How can they make themselves more valuable on the court?
If for the kids or anybody that's going out and playing, and I mean, everybody wants to do well, they want to perform well, and the way you do that is by training and by competing as much as you can, so that when you do get out on the court, you don't have to think. You're there and you're doing everything you know how to do, and doing the tough part is getting your mind right and trying to focus and play at the highest level every point. You know, it's hard to do. Not everyone can do it. We were the best at it. We won the most, and not because the teams were easy. It's because we could focus at a high level over a long period of time, and then do that again the next week, and again the next week, and again the next week. Not an easy thing to do. Not everyone can do it, but the objective would be, one, train, prepare properly so that when you get onto the court, you're ready to play. And then while you're playing, try to focus on every play, every single play. When, you know, you can see sometimes when you're watching games, something happens and you know, the team makes a great play or something, or you make an error. If you don't get your mind right away, it happens a lot that you will make another error, and maybe even another error. So to make sure that doesn't happen, identify when you've had a lapse, when something happens where it changes, you know, the tempo of the game for you, and start back over, and you know, try to push hard and focus, and you don't want to give up more than 1 point in a row. But it happens so often. It happens where teams will give up a point, and then they'll give up a second or a third and a fourth, and that's how you lose games. You got to turn things around. And another thing, everybody's afraid to use their timeouts. I don't get it. So many people finish a game without using a timeout. They lose, and they haven't used their timeout. I don't know what they're saving it for. You know?
Right.
You know, you don't get to use them after the game's over. So use it. It's not a sign of weakness.
Right.
You've got to remember, when you call a timeout, all you're trying to do is to slow the other team down and give you an opportunity to think a little bit about what you're doing, and come back out and you know, refocus. But it's not a sign of weakness. It's a way to slow the other team down. Don't think of it as something on you. Think about it, you know, as something on them. You're slowing them down. You're trying to switch the momentum. And one play can change a whole game and a whole match. One play. You could be down 4 or 5 points, 6 points. One play can turn that whole thing around, and all of a sudden they're struggling to get the ball in the court, or struggling to get by the block, and things don't work. It just takes one play, and people have to realize that. I have another story.
I love your stories. Please.
And I've told this one before, but Randy and I were in Brazil, and this is in the late.
Wonder if he won his race.
Those are the motorcycles. I love them. We were in Brazil in the late wow, he's going fast.
Yeah.
So we were in Brazil in the late 80s, and we're playing in the World Championships, and we had gotten to the finals. And traditionally in Brazil during February, it's hotter than anywhere you know.
In
I mean,
February?
it's, yeah, in February. It's their summer.
Yeah, yeah.
So super, super hot. And the stadiums were big, and there was no air coming in. So it was like being in a sauna.
Oh.
You would drink water, and as you're drinking it, and it was going in, you could feel it coming out of your pores. I mean, okay, so we're playing this game. We're in the, I think we're probably in the third set, and both teams are worn out. But I don't know if we must have called the timeout, and because the other team was doing well at this point in the match, and we go over to sit down. And we're pouring water on us out of it. And they blow the whistle to come out, and Randy goes, I can't stand up.
Ooh.
He goes, I can't get up. My legs are like jello. My brain is frazzled. I can't move. I can't move. And I go, Randy, please. I go, we're tired. I know it. They're tired too. You gotta believe it. Even though they're used to this, I promise you they're tired too.
Yeah.
So I get him to get up. I said, just walk out on the court. That's all you got to, just walk, and let's just see what happens.
Yeah.
So he gets up, we walk out on the court, and he's standing there. Unfortunately, they serve me, and I pass it. I don't know if he had to take a step, but he has beautiful hands, and he set it, and I was able to put it away. And I go, hang in there, come on, one play, hang in there. And so I get to serve, and I serve to one of the guys. And the guy passes, he gets the set, he goes up to hit, and he hits. And I don't even know what happened with the hit, but when he came down, his whole body went into a cramp. Whole body landed stiff-legged and fell over like this. Game over. We win.
No.
And that was because Randy got up and moved and got onto the court and kept pushing. And one play later, they forfeited. The guy could not walk. He could not even stand up. He was so bad.
How long was he down for?
So bad. The guy?
Remember? Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Like
we were celebrating.
I don't know.
We were celebrating. Are you kidding?
Oh my God.
Well, again, it goes back to don't ever give up.
Right.
One play can change everything.
Mm-hmm.
And
I've been here, as you know, filming social media when you coach practice sometimes. And one of the things I do always remember you saying to the girls when you're working with them is you got to believe. I've heard you say that definitely to Stanton when you're working with him. But the other thing was that whole, I know we're tired, but they're tired too.
Yep, exactly right.
And I think people, even myself as a player, I try to remind myself of that.
And part of that is one play can change everything. One play. And you've got to, stay out there, try as hard as you can, and keep the pressure on, and that's anything can happen.
Yeah, and that just kind of ties in with like when people make mistakes out there, how to handle it.
Yeah.
Like just one play at a time.
Yeah.
One thing at a time.
Yeah, we all make mistakes. You just don't want to make a bunch of them in a row.
Right. Spread it out a little bit. That's hilarious. I know your brother Andrew also played in that Fort Myers tournament as well.
Did he?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay. That makes sense.
All the things I learned last night.
What did they finish? Do you remember?
7.
Okay.
7.
Okay.
But did you guys ever train together? You and Andrew?
We played together.
Well, yes.
Yeah, we played.
So then yes.
We played in the probably in the late '70s. We played together.
Jose
and I thought I was very excited about playing with him. It's cool playing with your brother, and he was extremely talented. Mm-hmm. And for whatever reason, we didn't click.
Huh.
And I think I had really high expectations for him. I knew how good he was.
Oh, okay.
And maybe I put too much pressure on him, but I don't think he performed as well with me because of our relationship.
Right.
And my pressure. So, we didn't play together a lot. We did early on, and then
And then-
it was on to other people for both of us.
But you guys continued to train together, or
We
or not really?
no, we didn't really
No?
train together that much. I mean, we would
not
train
even with your own partners?
we
and-
would train against each other for
Yeah, yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, because once you're with a partner, you want to train
You-
with them all the
of
time.
course.
And all my partners came from this area, or at least
Mm-hmm.
trained here. So there was
Yeah.
never a problem finding.
I like it.
Yeah.
No, and I like how you keep saying that it just didn't click, because when I pick a partner, I like that energy that I have with them. And I think that's super important to
Well,
find.
a partner that's good for you
Right.
makes you play better,
Exactly.
and the same for them.
For them.
You make them play better.
Right.
And that's critical. That's critical.
Yeah.
And you have to believe and have to know. I mean, with Karch and with Stoklos for a long time, I never had to worry about them.
Mm-hmm.
I knew they were going to be trying one as hard as I was trying,
Right.
and they were going to do all the right stuff.
Yeah.
And when you play with somebody long enough and you click well, together, it's not like you really have to communicate a whole lot.
Right.
You know what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
You just know.
Yeah.
And there's a huge benefit to that. And when you play for a long time together, based on what's happening during the play, you know where they're going, you know where they're going to put the ball, they
Right.
know where you're going to put the ball without this dialogue, and you're never going the wrong way. And it happens with so many teams and partnerships where it's a front set and they're going behind.
Right.
It's like, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Okay, I like it. Let's see, just a couple more things for the kids. When they go up against who they feel is a tough team, what's your advice on maybe how to handle that, prepare for that? Because they're playing a tournament. Oh, we're getting ready to play them.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's
Yep.
like
Yep.
freeze.
Yeah. It's funny. I noticed this even in high school when I was playing indoor volleyball. I didn't play beach during high school. I didn't play until after my freshman year at UCLA.
Oh, okay.
I played when I was working at the beach club,
Got it.
but I worked on weekends, so I couldn't play in the tournaments, even though I got really good that first summer that I was working at the beach club between high school and UCLA. And on my days off, Monday and Tuesday, I would come down to Serrano Beach and I would play against the best guys, and I was hanging right in there with them. And they were kind of curious why I wasn't playing, and I said, well, I got a job.
Yeah.
And I said, but next year,
Yeah.
I won't work on weekends, so I'll play in tournaments. And that first tournament, open tournament I played in was with Ron Von Hagen, who was kind of my hero when I was growing
Yeah,
up. He
yeah.
was bigger than life, and he was older at the time, when I came onto the scene, but still really good. And the first tournament we played in, he pulled his hamstring the day before, or a couple days before. So when we went to Santa Cruz to play, he couldn't jump at all. So he didn't spike one ball throughout the whole tournament. He was shooting the ball, and they were serving him every ball, which everyone does. You find the weakness and you drill it. And we ended up getting fifth, which was pretty good. I felt like I could do anything, but I couldn't. It's just the nature of the doubles game. You find a weakness and you
Right.
work on it. And then that's when Ron said, well, go find somebody else to play with in the next events, because I'm hurt, I'm not going to recover in time. That's when Mike Norman and I played together.
Okay.
And I ended up winning the second tournament that we played in with him. And it was awesome.
It is awesome.
Yeah, you don't think, you're 19 or so, and you don't think you're going to win an open tournament when
Right.
you see these guys that are older, and
Yeah.
they're the best on the beach, and you think, I don't know if I'll ever get to that point. And
Right.
then all of a sudden I was there.
Yeah. And you think that's what helped you a lot in your career? Because I hear you say that all the time, that you never thought
No,
that you just played because you love the game.
Yeah, even UCLA, I wanted to play in college, but I wasn't thinking, I'm gonna go to this college or that college. I would have loved to have gone to UCLA, when I was in high school, but because the guys that went to UCLA were down at Serrano
down
Beach
here.
and playing, and that year before I would go to watch their games, and it was, you know, it was awesome, exciting, the whole thing. But was I ever going to get there? I didn't think of it, really.
Yeah.
You know, and I think Loyola Marymount or somebody talked to me, and then I played in a match against Culver City High, and one of the coach's top recruits for UCLA coming in same year that I was, he came to watch him, and I was there playing against this guy.
Okay.
And I played really well. You know, I could do everything.
Yeah, everything.
This guy was fairly one-dimensional, big guy, really good outside hitter. Could do, you know, was a great player. I could do what he did and a lot more. You know, I was setting, I was hitting, I was, you know, doing it all. And he, you know, Al Skates, the coach, who's very, very famous as a, you know, the most successful, you know, not only volleyball coach but NCAA coach with 19 NCAA victories. Pretty impressive.
That is amazing.
He didn't quite have 19 at that time.
Right.
I helped him get a couple more. But he asked me, where do you want to go to school? Where are you going to school? And I said, well, I don't know. I'd like to go to UCLA. He goes, well, if you go, I don't have scholarships. They're all gone. He says, but I'll get you scholarships when they become available if you come to UCLA. And I said, I'm in.
I'm in.
Let's go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and we won that championship my freshman year, and then I thought we were going to win 4 in a row, but we didn't win sophomore and junior year, you know, for different reasons. And then senior year, we went undefeated, first team to do that, and I was the MVP at the NCAAs, and it was awesome.
Yes,
and then I went directly to the national team indoors. Yeah. Pretty good.
That is pretty good.
Yeah.
I love it. That's so cool. So I see you wearing King of the Beach right now. And another little interesting fact that I learned about you last night was that, and now you can tell me if this is true or not, that you were the first player to flip your hat up.
Yeah. So when I started to play, players really didn't have sponsors. And I was doing really well, and I was all about trying to get sponsors, and I had OP for a little while, and I think I had offshore, and those are the bathing suit companies back in the 70s, and going into the 80s early on, but I can't remember. We may have gotten a little bit of money for that, but when Steve Asher started the company Side Out, they were looking for somebody to represent the brand, and actually my wife, who knew him through somebody else, said, you should talk to Sinjin. I know him, and I can introduce you to him. So I came over, I talked to Steve. We did a deal where it was a year-round deal, which nobody had ever done. And I was getting more exposure because I was also modeling at the time. So I got all kinds of exposure that was unexpected for the brand and the company, and was doing really, really well. And so I helped, you know, through my relationship with the company Side Out Sportswear, which eventually we trademarked King of the Beach, which you couldn't do today because it seems like it's more of a general term, but we were able to do it back then, and I was the King of the Beach. So we built the King of the Beach brand attached to Side Out Sportswear, and it was so much fun. I had a year-round deal, and we had fun making different clothes. Oh, the question was the hat thing. Okay, so early on, I thought I want to do my thing. So what would help me? I wanted to wear something, right. Because I'm in the sun all the time.
Exactly.
All the time. So I wanted to wear a hat, but when I'm playing, I wanted to get it out of the way.
I got you. Okay.
Right? So when I'm not playing, it's down. Right?
Okay.
And that's just what I wanted to do. I wasn't doing this to be clever. I was doing it for a functional reason.
Right.
So I didn't see the top of my hat. Yes. I could see the ball if it was up here. So Steve Asher said, well, why don't you wear a painter's hat? Then you could switch them out.
Oh, right,
you know
right, yeah.
All the time. Because there weren't there were a few options for hats, not that many back then.
Right.
And it's like 83, 84, 85. And I said, great, but here's what I want to do to, you know, there's everyone branded maybe thing here. I said, I want, because I'm half the time and while I'm playing, I want to put side out here. I want to put it here.
Okay.
I want to put it here. I want to put it here. And I want to put it, you know, everywhere on the hat.
See, yeah.
And after I play, I'd toss it into the crowd, and then I'd put on a new one. And they weren't that expensive. Painters, the white painters hats.
Yeah.
So that's, you go back and you can look at some of the old video and pictures, and you'll see that hat. I wore it for years, and then later on I would experiment with visors, you know.
Yeah.
And but it was for a functional reason is why I turned it up.
That's
you know?
so funny.
It wasn't just
I never thought.
the branding underneath came after
Right.
I figured out that I wanted to flip it up. And then I said, if I'm out on the court and it's flipped up, might as well put something there because they're going to see that all day long.
And did you, when you were in college, did you study marketing, or
No.
just kind of something that came to you from
No,
modeling, all your little modeling
I
days?
came into UCLA as a math major and studied mathematics for a couple years, and then ended up switching to economics because I just saw what was happening in the math department, and it was too demanding. I mean, those kids that were in math were all about it, and there's no way I was going to keep up with them. So I switched to economics, which seemed more practical, and so yeah, maybe I had a little background, you know, but it was more a feel of, you know, what was going on at the time and how I could take advantage of it, you know, the best I could.
Right.
Yeah.
I love it. I love that story. That's a good one.
I think you asked me about playing against tough teams, or what seemed to be really tough teams, and how do you handle it, what do you do? And I can remember even going back into high school, but for sure in college, indoors, and then eventually on the beach, there were guys that could just destroy the ball. I mean, in warm-ups, they bounce the ball, and you're going, oh my God, what are we going to do against them? When the game starts, everything is different. Everything. It's not the strongest guy. It's not the guy who can hit straight down, particularly if you're going to put a block up against him. It changes everything. The set's not going to be perfect every time. There's so many different factors that come into play when you're playing that change what's going on. Like, just because a guy is a tremendous warm-up player, and we would always, you know, kind of laugh about guys who are really good in warm-ups, but they get into a game and things change basically. So yeah, you go out, do what you have to do, and then you don't really know what's going to happen until you start the game. And yeah, you don't really have to worry about what you think they are, how good they are, either on paper or what they can do in warm-ups. Get them in a game and see what happens. You never know until you get them into a game.
That's very true. Oh yeah, do you remember at what point they started calling you the King of the Beach? Do you remember what year that was, or no?
Yeah, it was late 80s,
silly
I think.
Question of me.
Or no, late 70s, early 80s, late 70s, early 80s.
Okay.
There was a King of the Beach tournament in Manhattan Beach. Plus, if you won, or you won consistently, you know, you were considered the king. So, and that's when I was being called King of the Beach. That's when we, at Side Out Sportswear, Steve Asher and I, we went and trademarked the name for clothing and for events. So it worked out pretty good. It's still alive today. Side Out's coming back, and King of the Beach, we're doing, you know, we still have a ball, King of the Beach ball.
With Mikasa.
Mikasa.
Yeah, that your club uses.
Yeah.
And the camps.
That's right. And we're making clothes now, King of the Beach clothes. So King of the Beach.
I saw the back of your shirt. It's pretty cool.
The King of the
You're
Beach.
probably the only one that's going to get that one.
The King of the Beach
Sinjin?
brand is coming back.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do this. I had a couple people on social media when I told them I was going to be sitting down with you, and they did ask a couple questions. So We're
Yeah.
going to get to that right now, and then I'm going to let you go.
Fire away.
Fire away. You got it. So, what is your definition of an inspired athlete?
I'll tell you this much, that the athletes I think that people love to watch and follow are ones that love playing their sport. And you can tell when people love playing their sport, you know, they're exciting to watch, and fun to watch and fun to follow. If they're doing it as a job, it's a lot different. It's a lot different. I mean, yeah, it is a job, but the difference is when somebody enjoys what they're doing. I think you can really tell.
Mm-hmm. Of course you can. Okay, this comes from a mom of a kid who comes to the camps and has come to your after school practice, your Saturday classes, and she is wanting to know if you have a win that's most memorable.
There were a few of them.
Okay, well, of those few, what would you say?
There were a lot of them.
That were the most memorable?
Oh,
all of them. All of them.
The Manhattan Beach, you know, several times winning there. It's hard to separate them. Hermosa Beach, same thing. Winning at Laguna Beach, winning in Chicago, winning in, you know.
Was there ever something that stuck out when you won that happened?
Winning in Brazil.
Okay.
You know, the World Championships 4 out of 5 times, and getting the kind of exposure we got down there, which is much bigger than here. We were more well known in Brazil than we were here. I mean, there were a lot that, and a lot of them meant a lot to me. And you know, if I went back and started looking at pictures and video, and I'm sure things would come to mind that make certain events stand out. I mean, winning in Fort Myers in '93, that was kind of a special deal, because we were, you know, I felt it, and Randy knew we were getting towards the end of our career together. I mean, I didn't win in the Olympics, but I knew we were capable of it, and it was pretty exciting just being there at 39 years old and competing and seeing the sport make it to the Olympic Games. I mean, that was almost more important than actually playing in the Olympics, is participating and bringing the sport to the Olympic Games, you know, making it an international sport and getting it to that point. So yeah. There's so many different things. If you came up with a certain location, a certain event, and you know, I could dig a little deeper and find something about that event that was special. You say which of the events are great, right? The events where people wanted to see us play. That's what made events so good. Is we went to, you know, places in Florida and you know, in the Midwest, you know, all over Texas and Chicago and Michigan, and if there was a crowd of people there excited to have us come and play and they wanted to watch, that was exciting for me. That was awesome. I mean, you know, you got to remember, the sport was just a sport here in Southern California, and then when the AVP started, and you know, with Miller Lite and with Jose Cuervo, they wanted us to take what we were doing here with big crowds and move it around the country. That was unbelievable. And wherever we went, people wanted to see us play. And because they did, you know, people out here, they could see us all the time. But you know, we went to Chicago. We were there once a year, and people came out in droves to see us play. They thought we were special.
Yeah, you guys were.
We were just playing volleyball, you know, and competing. But it was sure a nice thing to see people appreciate what we were doing, and so that was a lot of fun and exciting. To go to a different place every weekend. We would go in early and do the radio and the television, and inevitably we would be telling these people who had never seen us before that all you got to do is come to an event check it out, and you will fall in love. I can tell you how great it is, but until you come down and look at it and see it and get the vibe and feel what's going on out there, seeing the athletes, how great they were, and then seeing, you know, how exciting it was to be down in the sand watching, you know, you won't get it until you do that. Once you do it, you're hooked.
I think that's a perfect time to stop.
Okay,
I really
good.
appreciate your time.
I'm
today,
getting
Sinjin.
tired.
You're getting tired.
No, but there's so much more.
I know.
There's
We'll sit down
so
with you
much.
again for
Yeah.
sure.
All right, we'll see ya.
See
Bye.
ya.